Okay. Hi, this is Sharon Lee, the Bigfoot field reporter, and I'm here with Andrew Robson, who is a Bigfoot enthusiast who had his own sightings just recently, and he's going to tell us about it as we sit around the campfire here at Beachfoot 2011.
All right. Well, the first time I saw Sasquatch was on my cousin Lynn's porch in Sweet Home, Oregon, and it was September 6th, 2010. And I had stepped out to use my cell phone because they don't get good reception at all. And both the times I saw it there, it was because of my cell phone. I went out to use my cell phone, and this creature ran out from underneath the porch. And at first I thought it was her dog.
What do you mean under the porch? Like, was it upraised?
It was a tall porch, probably
like
about,
a deck?
Yeah, about 10 feet off the ground.
Oh, okay.
And from underneath it, I heard this thing, and I looked down there. It was about dusk. Both the times were dusk. This thing comes running out from underneath the porch, and it goes. The forest is probably 10 feet in front of her apartment, in front of the porch. And so I just ran in there really quick, and I got a glimpse of it for probably about 2-3 seconds, and it would darted. I mean, it was just gone, and it was running like an ape. It was running like a gorilla, you know, on its. Like this.
Doing the 4x4 mode, like as D.W. Lee likes to say.
But it was skinny. It was skinny, so I thought it was their dog. But it was not their dog.
Did it ever stand up when it got to the woods? Or
I couldn't see.
Oh, it was dark? What time was it?
It was dusk, but it was the forest and everything. It just went into the forest. It did that motion in the forest. I didn't see it stand up at all. I couldn't see.
And how long did that last, that encounter?
3 seconds.
Wow.
4 seconds, something like that. I walked down there and I just saw it. Just dart in there, and for a minute I was kind of startled. I thought, oh my goodness, like at first because one of her dogs died recently, and I thought maybe I'd seen its ghost or something because it was so strange, so new to me, and it didn't make any sounds. I heard anything. A couple of days later after that, I was walking back from her apartment, which is right next to her sister's house, and I walked down the little path. And I heard from the forests surrounding, I heard the most blood-curdling screaming I've ever heard in my entire life. I mean, this thing was like horrified, and it would start out and it would sound like a siren almost. The lung power, it would just like create like it would just sound like a siren almost, you know. Ooh, and it would go on for a long time, longer than I ever could hold it out. But then you could tell that it was a voice. It had this vocal sound to it, and that lasted for maybe 10 seconds, I heard it. And the next day we went down to the area where I thought I heard it from, and they're starting to clear cut, starting to log.
Oh, wow.
So I thought for sure it was because, you know.
And is this in Oregon?
Yeah, Sweet Home, Oregon.
Sweet Home.
Yep, in the hills of Sweet Home, Oregon. There have been tons of sightings around that area as well. People can look it up on the internet.
Does the BFRO have it on their website?
I think they do, and I know the Oregon Bigfoot has a lot of them. So,
okay.
Lynn County, Sweet Home, Oregon.
Is that Autumn's website?
Yeah.
Oregon?
Yeah. Okay. And the second sighting, which was definitely more vivid, and the one that I tell people most about, because I know for a fact that's what it was, is again my cell phone. Someone was trying to call me, and I went on my porch trying to get reception, and there it was. To the corner of my eye, I saw this blur. I look over there, and by this small little tree that was probably about 8 feet tall. I can't remember what kind of tree it was, but it had these yellow leaves, all pretty, you know. And because it was fall time, it was October 1st.
Okay.
And it was dusk, and I saw this being about the size of the tree, maybe a little bit shorter, and it was gray, all gray, and very extremely lengthy.
Do you think it was the same one that darted?
It could have well been, because they were both skinny. That's the weirdest thing.
Oh, okay.
When you think of Bigfoot, you think of this big, huge, tough, you know, ape thing, but this was incredibly lanky and flowing and very graceful and sort of like Dan said, it could have been elderly.
Oh,
you know, because it seemed like it wasn't gonna dart or run or anything like the other one did. So I think maybe it wasn't the first one.
Okay.
Yeah, the one Bobby saw, it was a female, an older one, gray, and she said you could tell she was sickly looking.
Oh my gosh.
So
I don't want the flame. The ashes just came from the fire and landed on your book. I don't want your book to get ruined.
It could have been an elderly one. You know, we get gray.
Right.
We get old. Do we get gray?
Yeah.
Thank God for
We
Claire.
cover it up.
And I
Thank God for Claire. Diane, I'm doing an interview too, so just don't say anything that you don't want repeated. I figured this is the campfire interviews that I'm going to start doing. So.
And it seemed hunched over to a degree too. It seemed sort of, when I first saw it actually, I thought that it was picking up something. But I realized that it's when it was naturally long arms like that. But it was in a stooping position, but not to the point where, it would look like it was mainly just kind of
like his
over,
shoulders were kind of
but it had long arms
given out. Okay,
really long arms.
Yeah, watch that smoke.
It was pretty awesome, and it saw me, and it I don't know if it saw me because it looked in my direction, but it must have seen me.
Yeah.
Because it probably could sense I was there.
So was this your first interest in Bigfoot, or had you always had an interest before this?
I had heard stories. My grandfather saw it in 1958 in Bella Coola, British Columbia. And
did he live there at the time?
Yeah, he lived there. But my family always told me it was fake. My family always told me, and my grandpa told me it was real, but the entire family on my mother's side would always tell me, oh, the people down there, you can't trust them, and but I knew it was real. But I didn't know to what extent. I knew I was never going to see it. That's what I knew.
Right.
And I was always interested in kind of those kind of things as a child, like ghosts and cool things. But I never thought I would ever see anything. And there's Bigfoot.
Now, how old are you? Because you're young.
I was 24 when I saw it. I'm 25 now.
You're only 25.
Yeah.
So that's what's fascinating to me is like it seems like no matter how long this happens, like there's always a new generation to follow up with us, and to continue this this trend of researching and being interested in the Bigfoots and everything. Now, you said your grandfather saw the Bigfoot in 1958, and then
in December.
And who did he report it to? Did he report
John
it?
Green. And it's in John Green's book, The Sasquatch File. I can't remember what page, but it's in the British Columbia in the 1950s. And it's pretty awesome.
Did John? So John wrote about it, and did John make a analysis of it? Did he come to a conclusion about the investigation?
I have the tape. I've listened to the interview, and he keeps asking my grandfather in the transcript. He keeps asking him, "Is there any possibility this could be a man? Is there any possibility this could be a person?" And him and his friend who viewed it, my grandpa saw it with his best friend Bert, and they both keep saying nope, absolutely not, because and what's funny is it had the long arms like the one I saw.
Right.
And that's another thing that struck me when I saw it was that I remember my grandpa telling me it had really long arms, and that's the one thing that stuck. And but I never thought I would see it, so I don't think that I induced it or it was some fantasy at all. It was real, and I could hear it crackling as I walked away. It was really silent, though. It did the Indian stepping. I mean, it was trying to be elusive, but I think it was old, and it wasn't going to be running away from me.
So what was your grandfather's name?
George Robson.
George Robson, and it's in the John Green's book.
Yeah, and it was an 8-foot tall black Sasquatch, and they said that it had olive green skin.
Ooh. And
that it stood in the twinkling of their campfire. And it was in probably the middle of the night, I think, maybe from anywhere from like 8 in the evening till like midnight. And they heard it screeching before. Okay. Before they saw it, they heard the huge screeches. And he said it sounded like a bird, but a bird the size of a human.
Big bird.
He said, but he couldn't imitate it either. He said he just never heard anything like it. And
so when's the first time that your grandfather ever told you the story? How old were you?
Oh, I was young. I was probably 6 years old.
Were you scared?
I was horrified. Because my grandpa would say,
Bigfoot's going to get you.
They'll be aware of you and they'll just leave the second they see you. But my mom and everyone who's real religious said it was the devil, and that and that if I see it, it's I'm in the presence of dark angels and all this scary stuff. And so I avoided it for the longest time. And when I was 15, for a report in school, I was doing a report about my grandpa's sighting. Just for some reason, it just caught my attention again. And so I went to the bookstore, and I'd never known that he was in that book with John Green until I saw that in the bookstore. And it was another synchronicity. And then there's just kept leading me, and I gave up on it a couple of times because I felt that it was just some animal, or it was going to jump out of the woods and just like a bear or something. And But then I don't know, I just felt like I needed to research more, and then when I got John Green's email, I wrote him, and I got the interview on tape, and it just changed everything, and that was special for me, and that all happened after my sighting. My sighting is what instigated me getting back into the Bigfoot world at all.
Yeah.
Because I really didn't like what I saw when I first started getting into it. I saw a bunch of bickering people chew with their guns, and, I thought there's no room for this and for me in this, But then I thought, I'm just going to be who I am, and I
your own thing.
do my own thing and prove the truth,
Right.
They're real.
So what brought you to Beachfoot 2011?
I just wanted to see, but I've never been to anything about Bigfoot as in a group setting. And I just thought this would be a nice low-key way to start, and with enough people. And there were some people that I've read of, like Peter Byrne and Johnson. Matt Johnson and his wife.
And Ron Moorhead with the Sierra Sounds.
Yeah, that was my favorite. Yeah, the Sierra Sounds. I was excited. So this is great. This is an awesome opportunity, and there's my scrambled sighting.
Awesome. Thank you, Andrew.
Yeah.
All right, bye.
You're welcome.